Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, our government absolutely understands that now is the time to invest in Canada and Canadians, to invest in housing, to invest in affordability, to invest in economic growth. And we know we have to do it in a fiscally responsible way, which is why
Can we get back to the translator? I liked his voice better.
To pay a little bit more by increasing the capital gains inclusion rate. When it comes to the grocery sector, Mr. Speaker, we know that Canada needs more competition, and that's why we've brought in a once-in-a-generation change to Canada's competition law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
After 9 years of this Liberal NDP Prime Minister, Canada has turned into a nation of renters. After spending $89 billion on a photo op slush fund for housing, rents and mortgages doubled. The dream of home ownership for an entire generation is dead. Canadians are stretched because of higher taxes and higher rent, like the carbon tax scam that increased, making it harder for Canadians to pay for rent and food. Was it fair to increase the carbon tax scam 23% when 70% of Canadians told them not to?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, if my honourable colleague is concerned about tax increases, I suggest he talk to the leader of his own party who's proposing to increase taxes on new apartment construction by putting the GST back on apartment rentals in this country. Mr. Speaker, their plan is to raise taxes on home construction. Their plan is to cut funding for the communities they're going to build homes. He has actively promised in the media that he views the role of the government not to participate in housing. On our side of the House, we're going to make the investments necessary to solve the housing crisis. I hope the Conservatives will join us.
It's funny because I thought Trudeau said it's not his problem to get involved in housing.
We won't take any lessons from the worst immigration and housing minister in Canadian history. And now we have Mark Carbon Tax Carney preaching the same radical agenda in his Liberal leadership like this Prime Minister. He won't denounce the Liberal carbon tax and commit to cutting 1 penny of Liberal waste. Whether it's Carney or this Prime Minister, the inflation-driving deficits will continue. And just like the carbon tax scam, none of them are worth the cost. Will any other Liberal leadership candidate stand up today, show some common sense, and declare they'll finally axe the tax?
No, they're in love with this tax. They're like married to it.
Speaker, it's understandable why Conservatives want to throw up some smoke screens. It's been a very bad couple of weeks to be a Conservative in this country. First of all, they cavort with white extremists. Then their leader says we're going to have an a la carte Charter of Rights where we're going to take away your rights on a whim. And now, Mr. Speaker, we have a female candidate for a Conservative nomination alleging criminal content in the conduct of her nomination, identity fraud, false information. When will they stand up for law and order, Mr. Speaker?
What kind of news is he reading off his phone there?
Mr. Speaker, this NDP Liberal government has made life even more unaffordable for Canadians by raising the wacko carbon tax by 23%. Gas, groceries, and everything else is more and more.
It's actually one of the rare times that I can't hear the own a colleague from York Simcoe. If I could please ask members not to raise their voices while the honourable member from York Simcoe or any other member who has the floor to interrupt the member. So I'm going to ask the honourable member from York Simcoe to start from the top.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This NDP Liberal government has made life even more unaffordable for Canadians by raising the wacko carbon tax by 23%. Gas, groceries, and everything else is making life more and more expensive, especially for those living in rural and small-town communities where driving further for longer is just a fact of life. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has confirmed Canadians would be better off without the carbon tax. Will the Prime Minister stand today and admit to Canadians that he's just not worth the cost?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It causes me some disappointment to see an honourable colleague with whom I actually get along very well spouting such misinformation in the House. at the end of the day, the price on pollution is an effective way to fight climate change, but it is also a way to actually help with affordability.
You're not meeting any of your climate change targets.
Says it, 300 economists across the country say it. It is a way in which to fight climate change, but also to make life more affordable for Canadians. It is good climate policy. It is good economic policy for Canada.
The honourable member from Simcoe North.
Well, we know that is disinformation, Mr. Speaker. Canadians looking at their bank account know that the carbon tax hurts. After all, this government continues to classify small town and rural communities as urban, making them ineligible for the rural rebate and forcing them to pay more in carbon taxes to this out-of-touch Prime Minister. So, are they punishing rural Canadians and dividing them based on geography? Or does the Liberals actually think that Pefferlaw is downtown Toronto?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would encourage
I know we all love York Simcoe and all the communities they're in.
What is he going on about today, man?
But I will ask members to please hold their voices and so we can listen to the answer from the Honourable Minister of Natural Resources and Energy from the top.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would encourage my honourable colleague to actually read Bill C-59, which doubles the rural top-up. I would encourage him to actually read the letter from 300 economists across the country that actually say that people, 8 out of 10 Canadians, get more money back. Rather than simply axing the facts, he should do his homework.
There you go. L'honorable député de Charles.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, since 2015, the public service has grown by 110,000 public servants. And despite this, a lot of money is going to external consultants. Doesn't make sense. A vote on the budget isn't about more public servants. That comes through appropriations. And the Bloc voted for $500 billion in budget appropriations. Will the Prime Minister stop using consultants and instead rely on the expertise of his many public servants? The Honourable Minister, I'd like to thank the member for his question. I think everyone here can thank the excellent work of public servants. They're among the best in the world. And you've seen not only that in the last budget, we drew up a plan for growth and investment in families, a plan for investing in the future of this country, but the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister also presented a plan for spending. We will always be very strict and serious with public spending, and we will always thank those who work in our public service. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, that was exactly what my question was all about. We have 110,000 new public servants hired, but they're still paying tons of consultants, millions of dollars. So the question is simple. Can we stop paying $21 million a year for consultants and instead use these new public servants or not? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives never miss an opportunity to obfuscate, to threaten, and even to propose vicious cuts to our public service. Clearly, the government is taking care of business. We're helping seniors. We're helping out with childcare, with dental care, with school food programs. It takes people to administer that. And those are the same people the Conservatives are proposing to ravage, lay off, and cut.